Hello, everybody, and welcome to another 10 Forward Weekly. My name is Mikey Fatum. I am also known as Ambassador Cal. I am your community manager. And I am very excited because I clicked on the wrong screen. Hold on. I am very excited that it doesn't look like a freaking mess now. Jesus. Anyway, hello! I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I hope that is the smallest problem we have today. I'm very
Just
excited.
get the speed bumps out of the way.
Get that done first. Somebody post a screenshot of what that looked like to Reddit or the Discord, please, so we can all revel in my glory.
Lol, Kale screwed up again.
They've actually been super. To be completely fair, Reddit has been super nice to me since I got back, and we had all of the conversations we've had. So, yes. Looney Welsh, I don't know what that means, but I guarantee you don't know why the character creation button is on the bottom now, and you will soon. And that is all I will say about that. Also,
It's not an accident.
It's not an accident, but it's not on purpose either. But it will be on purpose later. Also, Casual SAB, congratulations on how fast you cleared that thing this morning. Okay, anyway, I am joined by some wonderful and talented people who I am very happy to have on the stream. This first part of the stream is going to be about the chips and event updates for First Contact Day, which of course is the First Contact Day event itself, the Noble class, and the Grawl class. And then we're going to take a brief break, and Mark their Chief maybe. We're going to hold off. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with a different group of wonderful folks, except for some of the same people that you see here. And we're going to talk about the 16th anniversary documentary and do a big deep dive on that. And there might be a documentary-related surprise hitting the internet somewhere in the middle of this stream. That's Jeremy's shocked face. I wish I could slowly zoom in on it, like a shocked Pikachu. But good morning, everybody. Welcome to Theron and Muwok and P-Fresh and Mark their Chief, and I am the Great Cornholio and Marhawkman and CDDJ Canada and KLMG and Stu. And thank you for the raid, whoever just raided us. I appreciate it. I didn't get the notification for whatever reason, but we were raided by Casual SAB. Thank you very much for the raid, Spencer. Good to see you. All right. Hello, Endeavor. Hello, Steve-O and Scotty. Okay, I'm going to stop saying hi to people because there's a lot of you. We're going to dive right in now. So, first up, we are going to talk a little bit about the wonderful surprise that we've been teasing all week, the Noble class. And, Jamie, you sent me this beautiful artboard to look at. Where on the artboard would you like me to start?
Sure. Hey, just for chat, I'm Jamie, otherwise known as Scorp.
Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, my guests today are Jeremy Randall, our design lead, Phil Harris, who is a systems designer, Pundus, who is a ship artist, and Jamie, who is Jamie, who is a ship artist and concept artist. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hi, chat.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Now you can tell us what's on the artboard.
Yeah. So I'm coming to you in the form of a PNG, as always. So you want to zoom in? Yeah. She's reading constantly.
Yeah.
If you want to zoom in on the top left,
you got it.
So yeah, Sovereign with a roll bar, right? Finally. So this was a bit of kind of key art or promo art that was done way back when Stowe launched. Has kind of become a bit of an in-joke in the community of this Sovereign with a roll bar. So we thought for First Contact Day, with the Enterprise E obviously being a Sovereign class, what better time to do it? And it's free. So who's going to complain about
that? Free!
I don't know offhand which of the original artists, when the game first launched, actually illustrated and designed this. Keen, do you know?
Unfortunately, I do not.
I will bet you $10,000 that somebody in chat knows and will let us know in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I actually think the original design may be a riff on concept art that was first provided to Cryptic by Perpetual Entertainment, who had the license prior to us. I think it went through a revision, but by some artists here at Cryptic. But
Yeah.
I believe that the Game Informer cover art was at least inspired by it. It began its lifespan under the Perpetual banner.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I will also add, in terms of that, the original version of the ship did show up on the tie-in novel, The Needs of the Many, written by Jake Sisko and Michael A. Martin. There are artists from Cryptic credited for that, but I'm not sure who, if any of them, actually worked on or designed the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if by any chance you did design this ship, let us know, and we'll credit
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, thank you for giving us a chance to do this really cool follow up to it. So if you want to scroll over to the sketches, there's not actually that much in the way of kind of intermediary stuff to talk about. That's the nice thing about doing remasters, is the heavy lifting is all kind of done for us. So a lot of it was just figuring out what are the parts of the ship that make the ship give it its character, what are the parts that we can kind of cut or change in the interest of making something that is more new, and we hope kind of more flexible when it comes to kit bashing. Something that I always consider a lot when I'm designing these ships is, how are these parts going to mix together interestingly, if not always well, with the other parts that players have available?
That's a good
to
way
them?
of putting it, with kit bashing in our game.
Yeah,
It's always at least
Like-
interesting, if not awesome.
absolutely. Like I was a full-time Space Bobby player when I was just a player, and just a player. That's not
When you were only a
Um,
mere player, not the god you've ascended to.
That was the thing that I loved and would get me to buy ships, was getting more weird customization options for them. And sometimes you get cool stuff, sometimes you get monstrosities. And yeah, like my stance is, if you make a monstrosity, that's your fault. We did the hard lifting. We made a cool ship. If you ruin it, that's on you.
So, see, first of all the ships you make are beautiful, no matter what JP says. Second of all, CJDJ Canada says they're going to be rolling a d20 and hitting the random button that many times for their noble class. Please post the result for that in the Discord. I want to see.
Especially if they're monstrosities.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love monstrosities. After all, I love the Jaeger class. Sorry, keep going, Jamie.
So the sort of, on the note of monstrosities, the elephant in the starship for this one was the roll bar. This
Spoiler
was the
alert.
kind of, this is something that we've shied away from doing because it doesn't really work. So our ships are set up on what we call a skeleton.
Mhm.
And each section of the ship, be it saucer, pylons, hull, whatever, is an individual bone. And we can change how those bones connect to each other, but we can't easily introduce new bones to an existing skeleton.
Correct.
Much like human skeletons. So the trouble here is that for the other ships that have roll bars, like the Miranda class, that's done on a separate bone. We couldn't do that for this, so we had to come up with a way, or rather, Thunders and Ramon had to come up with a way for this to work. And what we settled on was the roll bar being directly attached to the hull.
I can go into a bit more detail on that if you want.
Yeah,
go for
please.
it.
So, like, we know players have wanted this for a long time. That's why it's finally in the game. And one of the considerations was, of course, the roll bar. And like Scorp explained, when players ask for it, something that, it's something that I've personally thought about. And one of the big issues is that it's sort of connected to the nacelles. Now, the problem with it is that nacelles are not at a fixed distance. For example, some may be this wide. If you use a different set of hull or pylons, it may be wider. So you can't exactly attach them to the nacelles. So Thomas was the one who suggested the solution that we ended up using of having the roll bar connected to the hull. So the design was, I think the design took that into consideration, right? Like the robot is not just connected to nacelles, but it goes through the pylons as well. So there's a little strut added so that it can go inside the pylons and attach to the hull. And ultimately, this ship was modeled by Tobias Richter, and he executed on it amazingly. I had to do a few modifications to get all that kit bashing to work, but it's an awesome model.
So is that just to clarify? Is that like is there actually a physical piece attaching it to the hull, or is it like dev wizardry? Like
Yes.
it's held onto the hull by phantom limbs.
So when we get to like modifying it in the tailor, it will be very obvious. But yes, there is actually geometry. Like I think Jeremy is angling the camera in the engine right now. But if you go into the pylon,
the Noble artboard is up. So I guess I'll take
that's
the Noble
true.
artboard down for a second so Jeremy can show that off.
If you go into the pylon, you can see that there's a second smaller pylon inside the current pylon for the Noble refit.
Show us the tiny pylon. Oh yeah, there it is.
So if you clip the camera into the pylon itself, you can see right there.
There it is.
It's hard to see, but there's a second smaller pylon inside the big pylon.
Might be easier if we go into the tailor and show some
Yeah.
customization of it.
Absolutely.
That's true.
But let's finish with the artboard first.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
will also hold me closer, tiny pylon.
All this to say, basically, it wasn't my job to figure that out. So
Yep.
I just had to figure out. I just had to figure out what do we want to do with this. We couldn't put it at the end, unfortunately. We couldn't put it at the end of the nacelles like the original art for this ship because, like they've just explained, it would have looked worse. It would have been worse, believe it or not. So we settled on having it kind of connect to where the pylons meet in the cells. And then if you want to scroll over to the last two images, yeah, we ended up with this kind of...
Nobody saw that.
I'll see it in a few seconds when it shows up on stream, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
You know how in Photoshop sometimes when they have that setting,
you have the
like
wrong
if
layer.
You click on the thing, and click on a layer, it changes to that layer.
Yeah,
OBS
can
does
auto
that,
select
and it's,
enabled.
madness.
So we ended up with this design that is kind of sort of 50% Sovereign, 50% Vesta, is how I like to think of it. We wanted to stay very close to the original Sovereign class for this because it was for First Contact Day. So it's not as we're not pushing it out as far in terms of eras and styles as some of the other remasters that we've done. But the Sovereign is a very sort of intricate ship. It's a very like it all fits together very sleekly and very nicely. So that was a fun challenge working on this. Was getting something that felt like it was properly a contemporary. And I looked a lot at the fan design that I know people have been asking for, the Excalibur class. So there's a lot of that in this ship as well. It's kind of, we can't do fan designs. So this is my attempt at placating you.
You specifically, Endeavor.
In the hopes of giving something that kind of has that Sovereign look, but with the flat profile. And we decided that we were going to kill two birds with one stone. We were going to do the Noble remaster at the same time as this, because the original art that we see of this ship is basically the Noble with a roll bar on, but we wanted to make it a little bit more different. So there's a handful of changes to the model. I'll be very curious to see if people can spot all of them. I will be looking at the Discord later. But yeah, just a bunch of little kind of not time-intensive changes for us to make that would set it apart and give players a kind of option for like extra armored Sovereign. The way I see it is like Sovereign was a Starfleet ship that was built with the idea of being a warship in mind. The Noble was purpose-built as being a warship, and then the Noble refit was built for like special ops or like behind the behind
pot
enemy
on it.
lines type. Yeah, exactly. Put a pot in it, and then it does something extra.
A Starfleet
Um,
admiral somewhere was like, I want that ship, but slightly different.
Mhm.
And we don't have money
And,
in the future, so just make it for me.
One other thing I'll quickly add now, because I'm sure people are going to ask about it. Yellow lines on the saucer. They are, in my head canon, they are like the phaser lotus on the Manticore, but that's just my head canon. Like what they actually do, I don't know. Like I'm
They
going to
light
leave that
up.
to the community to come up with.
Jamie, I don't know if you know this, but as the ship designer, you can just say that's what they are. You
I
have
could,
before.
but like I like hearing people's fan theories. That was
That's
like
true.
so the first ship design I did for Stowe was the Horizon remaster, and I loved seeing what all of the fan theories about the sort of
Ball.
the ball, yeah, the the window ball.
The ball.
That was really fun. So
Balls
I like
rolling up.
leaving that stuff at the community. And with that, I will shut up and let
Please
the
don't
others
ever shut up, Jamie.
show you it in game.
All right.
Oh, I mean,
I do.
Jamie, Jeremy, you're live.
Cool. Well, I think we're still going to talk about art, but
Yeah,
this is
no, I
about
was
the
just letting you know
execution,
that
so-
you have the they can
Oh,
see
the,
you
the
now.
framing's a little weird on your
Oh,
stream.
that is weird.
It's like it's zoomed in or something.
Just a moment.
Also, the concept art has gone by. I just want to point out, I think it's really cool that Scorpio copied the John Aves coloring for the Basards and
Oh,
Warp
yeah.
Grills.
Uh,
Yeah.
when I'm working on concept art, I like when we're doing what we call like pastiches, which is kind of like a work in the style of another artist, which is what ships like these are. I like to try and match the style, not just design wise, but in terms of the rendering on that piece, because that informs how, when it goes to 3D artists, it informs how they read it and how they adapt it. So when we're trying to match something really closely, it's important that I get some of that artist's language across in my work as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jeremy, I have the same framing on my screen share from you that we see on the stream.
Yeah, that's weird. Let me see if this might break everything. I'm going to maximize my window because I'm just sharing
Okay.
a window.
All right, I'm fair
See
for
if that
things to be broken.
fixes anything.
It didn't fix the framing, but it did seem to make it slightly higher quality.
Well, that's something.
What are you seeing on your screen?
The ship offset to the left because I've tried to fit it into the frame, but we're going to need to fix this so that we can show the whole Taylor. So
Okay, well,
let me
maybe stop
I'm gonna
sharing and start sharing again. And we'll see what happens.
exactly.
In the meantime, Pundus, do you want to talk a little bit about the model of the ship, even though they can't?
Yeah. So as I said, the model was done by Tobias Richter. He did an amazing job on it, and I brought both the refit and the remaster into the game. For the record, the orange strips do work as phaser strips when you are playing the ship. I set them up to fire the beam weapon, so they do shoot. So it's up to you what they are. One thing about the Noble refit specifically is that you'll note it has a brand new hull material. Well, I say brand new sort of in quotes. It's technically a combination and a modification of the Inquiry and the Sovereign's hull material. It came in at a request of Thomas because he liked I think he described it as the battleship gray look that it had. So that material is exclusive to the Noble Intel Battlecruiser, and you unlock the material as well as, of course, the ship by doing the event and getting the ship. Another thing that I wanted to add is, we talk about scheduling a lot. This ship was the ship that I had the least amount of time to work on. So I say shout out to my art lead and exec producer Phil Dunn, art lead, and exec producer Thomas Maroney for helping me quickly review this and get into the game before the deadline.
This was a very we had already outlined our ship release cadence out through the next anniversary. Obviously things are subject to change, but we didn't plan to make a ship at this time at all originally. And it was only about 2.5 months ago or so when Thomas and I and Phil made the call that this is a good idea, let's do it. And so we kind of had to scramble to get it shoehorned into our schedules. Yeah, I'm really glad we were able to get it together, though.
Yeah. As the chat is saying, it's an amazing thing you put together for not having a lot of time.
Hmm.
Are
Do we want to show it in the?
in the Taylor? Yeah, I would love that.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's see what
Oh,
Alex
God.
is up to. Say
Oh,
hi,
no.
Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Hi, Alex. Alex has the weirdest job.
that's my
He just
starship.
sits at a console somewhere in Earth Space Dock, I imagine.
He lives in a dimensionless space, actually. So this defaulted to the Archon, I think. Which is
That happens sometimes when you first load up the Taylor. I don't know why, but yeah, you can
alphabetical, I
go.
think.
Yeah, you can go get the Noble Refit preset, and it'll also the thing that was showing me your screen not on stream is gone, so I have to work with stream delay.
Hold on. I got you. One sec.
Because of the reshare, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Since I know I saw someone asking chat earlier, our policy on remasters is we get to them when we get to them. So
Yeah,
in an ideal world, we'll get to all of the fair ships, but no promises and no promises when. But we want to do them.
Well,
New link in the chat.
that's worth
box.
that's worth kind of talking about the genesis of this whole idea. Like, it's the 60th anniversary. We wanted to do something special for First Contact Day because it's such a Star Trek thing, like just a part of the canon, a part of the IP, that we didn't want to just rerun the same event that we have in the past. Also, to be perfectly frank, the event has never really performed all that well for us. We get less engagement than we do on some of our TFO events and things like that. So we really wanted to give it a chance to shine. And this is where the conversation kind of started from with Thomas and myself and Phil Dunn. Like, what can we do to help First Contact Day be special this year for the 60th anniversary? And eventually the conversation came around to, well, we know that there's players out there that have been wanting a 5-3 Sovereign battlecruiser variant. And the Sovereign was obviously the ship for the First Contact Day movie. So it felt like kind of a kismet, kind of a perfect storm of this is the time to do it. It wasn't until after we had already made the decision to do this ship that then Thomas and I think Phil also went and dug up the old Noble and the old Game Informer art and kind of put that whole side of this in motion. But it all started from, honestly, and oh, this is dangerous to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. It started from you guys, from the players, just letting us know, so many of you being so vocal about the fact that this was a ship you wanted.
Yeah.
And this was an opportunity for us to say, we know players want this. Let's do it. Let's give them what they want. Okay, sorry for the tangent, but we're here in the Taylor.
yep. So
what
if
do you
you
want to
start
show
changing the pylons, it'll just if you start changing the pylons, it'll get all goofy.
All right. Do you know of one? Oh, there's a little bit goofy.
I don't know
shows
which
off
specific
the
ones are the
tag.
goofiest, but I think the Regents is probably the silliest.
No, I think that okay. Well, I've got the Sovereign pylons on here, and I think this shows it pretty well. This is the tiny pylons that you added,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So because it has to connect to the hull, and you can't guarantee that it'll always like the robot itself will always connect to the pylons or the nacelle.
Yeah.
So that's why it has a second smaller pylon inside it to get it back to the hull.
I realized I was going to ask a question earlier about why didn't we just make a what is it called? Nacelle. A nacelle variant that had the roll bar, but now I realize that it's because of the length of and positioning of the pylons. We can't know exactly where it would line up.
Yep.
Yeah, and nacelles can be wider or closer together. So if we had it on the nacelles, the robot would have to have some way of connecting up in the middle, and that's just like not doable.
Yeah.
So is the roll bar? It's okay. The roll bar pops up if you choose Noble Refit on the left. Is there another way to turn it on or off? Oh, it's in the
yeah,
Noble Refit hull. Okay,
yep.
Got it.
It's part of the hull.
Got it. Cool.
I guess it could have technically been part of the pylons, right? But then we wouldn't have been able to make it interchangeable as much.
That is also a problem because not all hulls have the same thickness. So some pylons are also variable distance away from the hull itself, which is why.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that we sorry, Kale.
Oh no! I was just gonna say that was kind of the compromise y'all had to make, but then you were starting to say it anyway. So
One of the things that we thought about when we were starting this is what if we had like one of the this kind of compromise that was suggested was what if we just put a central pylon that looks good and have it kind of more like a nebula style pod, or like the I forget what it's called, the Odyssey.
Lexington.
Yeah, Lexington. Thank you. But we decided that, like, it's gonna look goofy, but people want the robot, so that's what we decided to go with.
I guess this is up to players. Like, if they want to make a monstrosity, they are enabled by this choice that we made. But they can also cover it up just by choosing the right nacelles, or the right pylons rather, coupled with the right hull, so that these mini pylons get kind of hidden inside the other geo.
Or if you're like, man, I love mini pylons, you can do that too.
Now you have an option for a four pylon ship.
Yeah. I mean,
Weirdo.
the more pylons, the better. Jeremy, don't ship shame.
Sorry.
Just for that.
There's nothing wrong with being a weirdo.
Just for that, you have to hit the randomize button now.
All right, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, first one is really good.
Normal.
Really
it's
good.
normal.
But this is the
it's the noble saucer on the regular.
Yeah.
Is that on the sovereign body, or I don't know. Well, still great.
This is all older pieces.
Yep.
But again, just to show that, like, if there's anything about the noble or the noble refit that you're not so much a fan of, there's a lot of ship kit bashing available here with the rest of the ships in this family. It's one of our larger lineages, I think, in terms of number of ships. Did that present any special challenges with this setup, or is it just the same stuff you've already been talking about?
Thankfully, unlike, say, the Miranda, which has a lot of variations with a lot of like different pylon angles, different nacelle shapes and all that, the Sovereign family is actually pretty standard: long hull, swept pylons, nacelles, elongated saucers. So you can get a lot of goofy combinations, but pretty much all of them didn't need like any touch-ups on the older models.
We're getting a lot of long boys in a row here.
Yeah.
I do like one thing that I didn't realize is that this I guess I'm not as much of a ship guy, but this skeleton has a neck. I didn't even realize, and so you can make this.
All right. Well, since you brought up the neck, I should probably ask the question that I told Trexpert to wait on, that he's asked 3 or 4 times. Let me see if I can find it. Because it was about the neck. Here we go. Were there any discussions of merging the neck into the hull for all variants when working on the Noble? Since under modern design philosophies, the neck would likely be part of the hull from design to execution instead of its own separate bone.
You're completely right, but like, I don't want to take away customization options from players. It lets you be even more goofy.
I do like also like I want to call out here that like in this particular arrangement, for example, like you guys took the extra step here to actually make the back end of the saucer have features. There's a hangar bay back there.
Yeah.
That you can only see if you use a different neck.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Tobias Richter, that's amazing. Like he did that part, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I had to admit that I did not think about the fact that this have a neck. So yeah, Tobias Richter gets a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm gonna need you to hit randomize until we get a roll bar. Just don't stop until there's a roll bar. Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Hey, there it is. Yep, that looks great. Actually, that does. I was gonna make a joke because the separate nacelles are like under the nacelles in a weird way, but that's actually kind of a cool design.
But like, if you like this on a whole, if you just tweak your pylons there, then you're back in shape, right?
Yeah.
And there you go.
But if you want the pylons underneath, like I probably would, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, I think that we should move on to the design.
Folks are saying that they have already created monstrosities and are posting them in the Discord. Please do. I want to see as many monstrosities as you can, and then I will send them to Jamie in the middle of the night.
To haunt his dreams.
Yep.
Their dreams.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about the stats on this baby. So this is a battle cruiser, and it's a 5-3 battle cruiser. Let's all take a moment to do applause for that. Okay,
Yep.
just me. And then
And as I said, this was directly inspired by what players were asking for. We started from there, but then a lot of this. So the primary ship designer on this was Miku, who has been on our live streams before but couldn't make it today. So Phil actually did some reading and research on Miku's designs. He'll be walking us through what we did here. So where would you like to start with this, Phil?
Shall we start with the seating?
Okay.
Am I unmuted? Yes, that's always a
Yes,
good
you are.
start as well. So we've got Commander Engineering Intel seat, Lieutenant Commander Tactical Command, Lieutenant Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Engineering, and Ensign Science. There with power bonuses of like +10 to weapons and +10 to shields, which is really, really nice. It can equip dual heavy cannons. It's got the command setup. And I think we should look at the trait before the Universal Console, because the trait is a little bit simpler. So the trait is to hell with your orders. Miku
Our
deliberately,
orders, not your orders.
sorry.
to hell with directly to your order. That's actually what that's actually what Jeremy's team tells him every day.
But Miku was very, very much. This was like a two-finger salute, shall we say, to like the Federation. And in the spirit of the ship, she did a lot of research on the ship going forwards. And to hell with our orders. Defying Starfleet, using a captain ability, you get a 5% reduction in like recharge time of like those abilities, and you increase your flight speed and turn rate, and it's immune to threatening stance as well.
So this has no internal cooldown, or a very small one, if so, like 1 second. So you can, as frequently as you activate your captain abilities, you can continue to get that 5% recharge off your universal consoles. I know this isn't probably as powerful as something like unconventional systems or the Bovin console, but it's just an additional tool that you could use in those similar builds. Mainly because you only have so many captain abilities, and some of them tend to have longer recharge timers. I believe. Do you have the documentation inside of you? I'm trying to.
I do.
In front of you.
Inside
I don't know
of you?
inside of you. Have you internalized it? I don't know if the flight speed buff is refreshed or stacks. Does it say on the docs?
It doesn't say on the docs.
Okay.
So
I have a feeling it just refreshes.
I think it refreshes as well. I don't think the trait was there as a sort of supportive trait rather than a major trait. But that's probably because the Universal Console Destruct Sequence Alpha 1, taken from the First Contact movie, is so cool. And
well, before we get into that, I do want to mention, in case you guys don't remember First Contact, this was something that Data said.
Yeah.
And this was because the Enterprise was ordered to not go to the battle at Sector 001 where the Borg were invading. And they did that because Picard was formerly assimilated. They didn't want him to be a risk factor. And then they were like listening into all of the comms chatter, and the battle wasn't going well. And so Data said, I believe I can speak for everyone when I say to hell with our orders. So yeah, this is where the inspiration for the flight speed came from.
That
and the
was
name,
also part of
course.
the ARG, because it was the name for this trait.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we can move on to the console.
Destruct Sequence Alpha 1. So again, from like the First Contact movie, this is a powerful Universal Console, but it comes with risk. And we were really, really happy. We haven't done a power where you can destroy your ship for a while, and you can definitely destroy your ship with this.
We almost did with the Impersa, but I convinced Mayo to change it.
And that was your mistake.
So basically, when you click this universal console, it removes all debuffs. It makes you immune to control debuffs. It adds 15% weapon firing cycle, plus 15 critical severity, plus 5% critical chance. There's a whole lot of stuff going on here. But if you don't get out of combat within 30 seconds, you blow up.
Yes.
With 5 times the amount of damage a normal warp core breach would do.
I thought this is actually, I didn't realize that was the philosophy. Reading the console for the first time, I thought it was like the blowing up was the point, not get out of combat before you explode. So that's a very interesting playstyle that I didn't realize. I like it.
Well, it's kind of both, to be perfectly honest, because there's a design philosophy that we talk about sometimes on the internal inside the team, which is I don't want to encourage players to die, right, in the game.
Or out of the game, Jeremy, or out of the game.
Because it's kind of a contrary pattern to actually being an effective gamer. Like, as much as possible, you shouldn't want your ship to explode. So when we introduce something that is very thematically tied to the idea of your ship self-destructing, which was the theme that we wanted, this is one of those weird cases where we saw something in the show, or in the movie in this case, where we knew we wanted to turn that into a console. So the concept came before the mechanics. I would say probably most of the time it's the other way around. We usually have an idea for a mechanic and then kind of shoehorn it into canon in some way. But this one very much came from the screen reference. So we were kind of stuck with the idea of this is a ship self-destruct sequence, but how do we make a power that encourages you to not blow your ship up? And so we actually did both. There's a lot of if you can leave combat before the 30 seconds is up, then it will automatically disable itself. You can't turn it off manually, though. That is something that I saw a few people bring up in the chat, and that is on purpose. That is the risk associated with running this buff, because the offensive buffs that you get from this while it's active are really pretty significant.
Strong.
Yeah. It does seem...
You're also immune to all control effects while this is active as well. So you can't be held, you can't be locked down or anything like that.
It does seem like it may be based on reading chat. It may be toggleable off, at least in the tooltips or in the. It may have even gone live being toggleable. I'm trying to figure out what people are actually saying, but.
So I think this is just it says toggle, but all that really means is that it is a power that gets turned on and periodically rechecks its evaluation. Honestly, that's just a mechanical term. Toggle doesn't necessarily always mean you can turn it off whenever you want. In fact, your weapons are toggles, and you can't turn them off.
Got it.
Toggle 4 max. Right? So it's up to individual per power basis as to what a toggle actually means. Really, all it means under the hood is that it's activated once but reevaluates multiple times. In the case of a weapon firing sequence, this is 4 times. For this, it's 30 times, once per second. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah. Okay, apparently the blog also says it can be turned off. Let me look that up, because
there was an iteration as of a few weeks ago that said that you could manually turn it off, but we pivoted.
That was too nice. Yeah. So we decided that we wanted you to blow up.
Well, listen, if we would have allowed you to turn it off whenever you wanted, we would have had to nerf the effectiveness of the buff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's an end of combat thing, or small ships combat. You can get out of combat in 30 seconds if you plan it right and use it effectively, and the bonuses are really
use a battle cloak.
Yes.
Yeah. So the blog doesn't say you can turn it off. Sorry to interrupt. The blog doesn't say you can turn it off that I can see, but I can see how we should add a line about after a time, if you have not gotten out of combat, the ship's warp core explodes, rather than after a time the ship's warp core explodes. So because it sounds like that's sort of the design philosophy of this, that rather having it be something you can toggle on and get a huge buff, but have to be careful to toggle it off in time. It's something where it's kind of a risk reward. Like, if you think you can, with all of these buffs, finish the combat fast enough, then you won't blow up. But if you don't, well, either accept blowing up or don't turn it on.
Yeah.
It is listed in the description here, the sequence can only be canceled when you leave combat while this ability is active.
That's good.
That
Yeah, I just meant the block.
that is
to
our
be clear.
intention here. And I saw, sorry, I missed who. It might have been Angel of Death mentioned that like people aren't going to use the clicky, but the passive's still good. Hey, that's totally valid.
Yeah.
If you want to use it just for a passive, that's fine. That's cool. In fact, if you don't want to use it, if this is too much risk for your playstyle, cool. This isn't for everybody, and that's actually a design philosophy that more of our event ships have had. And this does kind of fall into that category. This is a free ship that you can earn just by playing an event. We're okay with trying things that are a little bit outside of the meta, a little bit outside the norm, and maybe outside of people's comfort zones with more of these event ships. You've seen this in some of our recent experiments, like with the Hollow ship. That ship does some kind of weird stuff, and that's okay if it's not your play style, but you can get the ship for free. So why not?
Yeah. This is actually going to be a really fascinating console when you guys eventually add Space Red Angel suit that brings you back from death.
Oh, there's some starship traits like
There-
the Invincible.
That's true.
There's the in the temporal operative captain spec. There's a ability called continuity, which will bring you back. So yeah, you could outfit yourself with a bunch of those. Also, like I said, this is only triggered by leaving combat while it's active, and you can do that by activating a battle cloak if you're willing to take that time out of your cycle. But really, the purpose of it is that this is meant to end a fight. This is meant you turn this on, get a massive buff, blow everybody up, and then leave combat before the timer is up, and it'll automatically cancel itself. That's the intended use pattern here.
Yeah.
And can I
repair ship?
can,
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just add, we've also turned it off for social zones, just in case
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
5 times warp core breach.
So, but I do want to mention the passives here because, like I said, somebody mentioned it in chat. These are specifically designed to be very thematic for the show as well. The quantum torpedoes specifically, it does exactly what it says here. This is a huge damage, not bonus, but damage buff to specifically quantum torpedoes. I want to see if people end up incorporating this into any specific builds as a result of that. But yeah. And that's why it's such a large bonus. We don't usually put that too much of a damage bonus on a passive console, but it's so restrictive that it made sense.
Okay. I'm noting the feedback about the Savi set folks in chat, and I'm passing that on in Slack, so we can talk about that later. But okay. So
I want to show off the visuals real quick.
Oh yeah, please.
So I have this is only activatable in combat as well, so it won't instantly cancel itself. But we have this cool red alert insignia, and then you can see, and there's also audio. I forget if I'm sharing with audio, but there's like this like low hum to it. And then if I can leave combat before I blow up, you should see the buff go away. Come on. There we go. So I didn't blow up.
Hooray!
Not everybody can be so lucky, but I'm just showing that it works.
You should show what happens if you do blow up. It looks just like a normal explosion, but it's fun.
Yeah, let me get closer to the enemy though, because I want to hit him with my warp core breach. It's going to take 30 seconds, so talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Somebody was saying
Here we go.
It would be great to have a countdown before the final explosion, which actually would be very funny. I would love if we could get Lonnie in here to do a computer countdown to self-destruct. Just for you who activated the power.
We actually did have some difficulty getting the effects to sequence correctly on this. I think we ended up throwing away the idea of an actual countdown because it doesn't always complete the full cycle. There it went.
Yep. You summoned one of the unkillable test dummies, which is why it didn't seem to do any damage to him.
Yep, you're right. Oh well.
But still very pretty.
Just, I guess, proving that it works, guys. Yep. It works.
Yes. Primal Rage is saying, you know, in I'm gonna rephrase this a little bit, but you might not be able to get out of combat, and you know that's sort of the risk and reward of this. Maybe if you've got the
Yeah.
competitive engines and can throw on an all-powered engines or a pilot maneuver on
Mhm.
whatever ship you've got this on, then you can get out of combat easier. But on a noble, you're probably just gonna want to kill everything.
And if you can't kill everything, get as close as you can to them.
Fly right up to the Wolf 359 Borg cube and
hmm
take them with you.
Park next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some fun trait synergies that could potentially build around this. There is a trait called, I think it's just called I'm taking you with me, which is when you're defeated, you come back with these huge buffs for a short amount of time. So that could be
That's
a nice
right.
little chain effect. You could use this while you're alive, purposefully explode, and then use that trait to come back and have a short buff window as well. But then you explode a second time.
Yeah.
And then you have the invincible trait, which once you just explode the second time, you come back again.
Okay, so here's another challenge for y'all. See how many times you can chain coming back to life in this ship.
Yeah, the build style is called Warp Core Breach.
Yep. I'm assuming no, but does Fireball Escape affect your own warp core breaches? I don't think so, right?
I doubt that it could, because
Yeah.
you're dead when you're warp core breaching, and
Yeah.
you would have to be alive to benefit from Fireball Escape.
Yeah, it's difficult doing anything when you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Phil, you know, we've talked a little bit about the stats, about, you know, as a battle cruiser, this is the 5-3 Sovereign everybody's been asking for. What do you sort of imagine as the play style for this ship? Like, if you're piloting her, you know, what's sort of the general design intent you think Miku was going for?
I think Miku was going for combat. Definitely with like the 5-3 layout, the abilities to like do like vast amounts of like damage. You could use it with like the universal console to pick things off at the edge of like battle, but this is a ship that, as from like the film and as from like its history, is like always like deep in the heart of combat, and therefore like adapting it to that type of like role will probably do you a lot of benefits. And also, as like Jeremy said, when we do the ships which are available free, then we obviously experiment a little bit more and we play about with different like console designs. So I'd be really, really interested to see people effectively like using the universal console in really, really good ways. In some of the content we've recently released, like the episodes, there's like some opportunities, definitely against the chimerified harmony, where it might be interesting to see how they can use that ship effectively. And as you were saying, just finding out how many times they can get it to like revive to come back in like combat, even if
Mhm.
you've like died.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
I'm going to show the starship trait, which I think I have slotted. Yeah, this little running guy on top is meant to indicate the flight speed boost. And then you can see the timer on the console getting slowly ticked down every time I activate a captain ability,
Oh, that's nice.
including things like evasive maneuvers, brace for impact. So yeah, as quickly as you can activate these things, you can end up knocking a pretty significant chunk off of your universal consoles.
So, Theory Crafters, when you combine this with Uncon and get your consoles to be 100% up, let me know.
Yep.
All right. Well, that is the Noble. That is excellent. I'm very excited to see what players do with this ship. But she's not the only ship we were going to show off today. Do we want to talk a little bit about the Grawl class?
It is a silly ship. Let me switch over.
So what do you say about all my ships?
Well, I don't know if you guys, was my screen up when I just switched?
Yeah.
But the size comparison is of note.
Wild.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's meant to be a tiny ship, so that's okay. So,
Yeah.
Phil, tell us a little bit about this tough little ship.
Yeah. So I built the Graal to be a real utility ship. I built the trait and the Universal Console to really, really like support that. There's a little bit of love back to the past of like Star Trek and Star Trek role-playing games in like the name of the Universal Console, and also the beautiful icon that Petra like did for us on it. This ship's there to go into like the heart of combat, thinking the early days of like the Federation, when smaller ships had to like ride their like sort of hold their own within like the space. And so this is another one of those ships where we have ways of like getting it into combat, but like the Elias before it, which was like Mayo's ship, very, very much considering like the utility of like the ship and like how it like functions within like combat as a smaller ship. So it's faster. It's got a 4-2 weapon layout. It's got a Commander Science Command, Lieutenant Commander Universal Pilot, Lieutenant Commander Universal, Lieutenant Universal, and Ensign Universal. So it's all universal seating apart from
But
like the
it's
science seating.
Scout vessel, in case people didn't see, which is typified by this sort of layout.
Universal.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
But it's the way that we sort of like link that command into like a smaller ship. So the functionalities are, where shall we start? Let's start with the Universal Console, please, Jeremy.
Okay.
The
full active stealth action.
action, or FASA. And
We see what you did there.
basically, the idea here was to create an old-fashioned cloak for this ship, so that you could maneuver it into like combat.
It's not a cloak; it's a stealth action.
Yep.
Yes, it's a stealth action. With the VFX designed by Ariel, a really, really lovely like job going on there.
I was going to say, I love how this looks.
Yeah, so it reduces your threat generation and self. It's a toggling like power, so you can like go in like quite deep into like the middle of like combat. When you exit stealth, you recharge. You recover all the recharge time of bridge officer abilities up to their shared category cooldowns, and reduce all damage by 10% for 15 seconds. And the passives are a diminishing of DOT and AOE damage as well, which is like permanently on this Universal Console. The effect isn't as powerful as Boimler. It's not, because like Boimler's like got a 10% chance every time you use it. But we definitely feel that people will be like lining up their powers to use Photonic Officer. Will they be using Photonic Officer? No, I'm thinking about something else. Is it triggered? I am just sorry. I have just lost the thing.
No problem. There was a question in chat when you have a second to answer it that I had as well.
Yes.
Whether this stacks with other sources of threat, so like or stealth. So like if you cloak and then fire off the FASA, will it sort of get more stealth?
Yeah, stealth is an additive bonus in our engine. So yeah,
cool.
However, like if I can sidebar here real quick, in case
Yes.
people don't know how the values of stealth actually work, this is just very simply an additive thing. All ships have a baseline perception value of 5,000. And what stealth does is it just takes that away. And whatever is left is a number of distance units. So, and not all ships have 5,000. It's also influenced by your skills in stealth detection and your auxiliary power. And science ships have a innate bonus to that value that boosts it even more. But the baseline is like 5,000 minus, in this case, 4,755. So you end up with a value of 245. Is that right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
And 245 distance units in our engine. I'll round up to 250. 250 is 5K.
Okay.
It's 50 distance units per 1 km distance in the engine. So without other external variables, this means that up to a distance of approximately 5K, you're only visible up to a distance of 5K because their perception has been diminished by your stealth value down to that point. So as long as you're beyond 5K with just this, and not running any bonuses or anything, you're invisible. They can't see you. That's how it works.
And that's how you survive in a smaller ship in the middle of combat.
Yep.
Mhm.
You hide and
I
then
love
you
the-
shoot real good.
So
I was on
the aspect of that
Guardian
I
game
think
10 years and still learning stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
the aspect of that I think a lot of people don't understand is that distance does matter, and it's not just a flat mechanical value. That it is a measure of distance between you and your target.
Nice. All right. Do we want to talk about the trade a little?
Is this the icon you were referring to? Of the item, or is it
I
this
think it's
one?
that one over there.
No, it's the one in the powers bar.
Okay, I just want to call it out. I'm afraid I didn't play any of the Facet games, so I don't know what the reference is. But if you know, you know, I guess. All right, let's look at the Starship trait.
Yes. So the Starship trait is called Data Breach. This is where like the photonic officer like comes in. Basically, if you use a command or the photonic officer ability, it launches a data probe which seeks out foes and reduces their damages and resistances to give you advantage in combat. You can launch up to 3 probes at any one time. Some of the idea of this formed around the ideas for like toxic mines, which I did in the last episode, and were greatly loved by all the players. I've read your comments. So it was sort of quite nice to give something back of the probe variety. They don't do damage, but they definitely like debuff the enemies. And that's a really, really powerful effect. And obviously combined with the universal console, it was sort of designed to be paired together to like work together really, really effectively.
Yeah, -35 all damage resistance is a pretty significant bonus to your entire team and all your pets if you have any. Really boosts up damage output. But I will call out that per the tooltip here, the actual debuff effect is not intended to stack.
Yeah.
So, and I think we talked about this, but I don't know if we ended up getting this into a good shape. Is that the probes are intended also, their AI will help them spread out, I believe.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah,
they shouldn't all follow the same target.
If you spread them out, if you fly it right, yes, obviously, if you've got very few targets, then they'll all just like swamp onto that one target.
Okay.
But again, Ariel did some really, really nice work with the VFX on this.
Ooh,
So
excited.
this should, I see it there.
Oh,
Ooh, I
nice.
should
Okay.
Zoom out because it covers a very big area, which is another reason that we didn't want them to stack. Like one of these probes debuffs all enemies in 5K radius.
Yeah,
I think?
up to 5 enemies within the sphere as well. And since you can have 3 of them going at the same time, the way that you drop them into combat can really, really just change the direction of the combat.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So if it you said they spread themselves out, do they it looks like this one is targeting an enemy and becoming its best friend. Do they target different enemies? Is that how that works?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the idea. If we find that like people find that they just like pack around like enemies, we'll go and look at that for you. But I think it's very, very much the case that people are always like moving during like combat, and therefore like different enemies will be targeted.
Nice. Stu wanted to know. I think I know the answer to this, but doesn't stack with other activations of the same trait? So like the data probes don't stack with each other, or does it not stack with other damage resistance debuffs?
Just itself.
Just itself.
We don't.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, just itself. You can still use other debuffs, no problem.
Yep.
It'd be mightily powerful if it stacked with itself.
Oh yeah.
Well, because not only can you have 3 of these active, but so can everybody on your team.
Yeah.
Commander, park
Yeah.
20 meters away and fire all data probes.
Exactly. Then you can just one-shot enemies because their damage resistance is so far negative. Yeah.
That would be hilarious. The ship just
Yeah.
explodes before it just pulls an over before you even get there.
I said fire a warning shot.
All right. So what else do we need to know about this this ship, Phil? What else do you want to
Well,
tell
since
us?
we Uh,
Go on, Jeremy, please.
no, I was going to skip over to art, but is there anything else left to say about the design of this little buddy?
No, as Jeremy knows, I like creating like slight ship oddities and things like this, and I'll always like concentrate on science and different things like this, playing about with these types of things. I really, really enjoy this ship. I really, really enjoyed like designing it. There's other ships in like the set of ships that I've created, like the Abina and the Arc Roll that I love very, very much. But I think this one's going to hold a special place in my heart for quite a while.
Heck yeah.
It's such a little guy.
It's just a little guy. It's just a little guy that makes itself not blow up and makes other things blow up good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
In fact, the Universal Console would be really, really good to fit onto like the Noble.
Yeah.
With the
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the art. Pundus, what do you got for us?
Yes. So this is, of course, if you don't recognize it, it's a canon ship. It appeared in the very first episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds as the USS Archer. So this ship was designed for the show by a guy named William Budge. He did some awesome concept art on it that's online on his portfolio. It is designed to be more of a runabout than a starship, but it is still about 110-ish meters long. It's a really interesting design. There were some concepts of it with more Discovery era aesthetics, but the one that we saw in the show had the round nacelle and the strangely slightly oval saucer, which is quite unique for a ship of this time period.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
If you are able to get into the Taylor.
Not that I doubted you.
Oh, and of course, this ship was modeled for us at STO by Tobias Richter, who is awesome and also did a Noble. Is it just me or is the screen black?
Oh, how did that happen? Sorry. I was
Maggie.
looking up something else. We're back.
Yay. All right. So this ship, unfortunately, not many customization options. For example, there has no windows because the windows on the ship are actually like fully modeled, and you can look at some of the corridors within.
I was noticing that earlier, that like, the outer corridor is fully modeled. You can actually see some parallax if you look around inside.
Ooh.
Yeah, and there's the little like chairs and consoles in the very front where the bridge window is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like it's on some of the ships in game, like Book's Frigate, the Crossfield, and the Discovery Constitution. Yeah, so it's on this as well. This ship, we being a ship from the Strange New Worlds Discovery era, it has access to some extra materials. It can use the Discovery era Starfleet and Constitution class materials as well, in addition to all of the standard materials. And it has one extra nacelle option, being a vanity nacelle. So if you like your ships to use vanity shields or want the Basalt collector to change with the material you select, you can use the vanity nacelle. And when you change the material of the ship,
I just realized that's why you've been naming these vanity. I just realized that just now.
It's because this nacelle is very vain, Jeremy.
Well, I thought it was just like it's a visual variant. It's a vanity variant. I'm here now.
Thomas was the one who chose that name. But yeah, it's something that we started doing, I think, last year. Like we fully started doing it with the Timeless Legacy bundle. But yeah, because by default, the ship's Basalt collector has a very blue, pale, cloudy look. It's also slightly animated. So because we can't have animated elements change materials when using vanity shields and such, we added the vanity nacelle variant. So if you choose that and change the material or use a vanity shield, you can have different colored Basalt collectors.
Cool.
Very cool.
I'm actually going to apply that because I do want to. I've just realized we forgot to do a vanity pass on for the Noble too. We can switch back to that at the end of the stream if you like. To see some of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I wanted to show the bridge here though. It wasn't very well lit in the Taylor. It's very low poly.
It's pretty low poly,
so
but
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, that is very cool. Okay, let's see. I don't have the vanity shields. Give me a second. I'll get these set up. Anything else we want to talk about visual wise though?
That's all I can think of.
All right. Well, yeah. Let's take a look at the. Oh, is that reward table updated, Jeremy?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, it was like 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. But still, hey, that's better than. I appreciate.
I don't
Yeah, I
keep
think
it
it has
100% up to date because it would leak things if I
yeah.
did. But like, I think this has the Soulfire Vanity was maybe the last one that I added from the winter event.
Okay.
I think I was only sent you the list, right? Of all of
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be up until so far.
So at this point, folks, this is an old tradition from back in the day, but you now have the opportunity to shout out the name of a vanity shield you want to see on this ship, and we will throw it on
The
there.
green one.
Why? Why are you like this? Why are you like this? Who hurt
Starting
you?
us off strong.
All right, we got a request for pink from a player, so maybe we do that.
Wow.
You want to show the dielectric first?
I don't think I have it.
It's DIEL. That might be the problem.
Oh, dielectric.
Yeah.
Yes, that
There
was
it
the
is.
problem. I don't know.
Why
how
did
to
I
spell.
tell you what the problem was? Okay, there you go. There you go, everybody. That's the
And
brain
now the
shield.
Bizarre
All
Collector
right, so anyway, the
green.
pink shield.
I
it
do
is.
like that I typed in die and got the worst shield in the game.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we've also got two requests for Section 31. Hey guys, the ship is going to be black and blue when we do that. What a shock!
Oh wow!
Hard to believe.
So is the Bassard Collector changing color and I'm just not noticing it? It still looks white
it did
to
with
me.
the others. This one doesn't have
okay.
a color for it, I think.
Got it.
Yeah.
But like
okay,
with the pink one, I'm pretty sure it turned pink.
we got a request
I
for
think
the
pink
Riemann.
one doesn't change the color.
Let's see what the Riemann does
Riemann.
to it. There was some poor soul on, I think, Reddit, who had accidentally stuck a Riemann shield on and didn't know how to take it off and was like, "What's wrong with my
Oh, yeah.
ship?"
There you go. The Bizarre has changed.
Yay!
It's greenish blue now.
And then there's the other
Angel of
Riemann
Death
case.
says, "We are Grawl of Borg. Lower your shields and surrender one nacelle. Resistance is futile.
Just one, though.
Just one. That's all we need." Not bad. Not bad. Prodigy was requested.
Prodigy.
Prodigy. Nice.
Clean.
That's very pretty.
Nice
Super
blue.
clean.
Yeah.
All right, we got our first time chat. Welcome to Neo Saiyan Gaming, who wants the Terran Empire shield, and then I think we'll probably wrap this up so we can move on to the next thing.
Terran Empire. No, those are Terran Task Force. Is it named something else? Emperors. I think it's called Emperors.
Yeah.
And, you know, something that we're also doing in ship blocks now is trying to add visuals for all of the vanity shields that are currently in the game for ships.
And those are up now for the Grawl. They weren't up this morning because I'm still
I think
remembering
the
things.
ground one currently links
Nope,
to the
not
noble
anymore.
bow.
Oh yeah,
cruisers
you're
one.
right. I gotta fix that.
Yay!
No, not anymore. I can't connect to the VPN while we're streaming, so I have to fix it after the stream.
It will be correct soon.
It will be correct soon. All right. Cthulhu wants to see if any of the Discovery ones give a red Bussard collector. I don't know if that's the case, but
Off the top of my head, no.
White. White.
white. Man, these shields
Sorry,
are
no.
racist. I don't know how easy this would be for you to pull up, Jeremy, but we have a request to see what it looks like with the competitive engines on it, which
I don't have those handy, sorry.
Okay,
but
no
I
worries.
bet they're going to attach to the one nacelle.
Yep, and I think it's going to look amazing. Kellum G says you can put those on, but it'll tip over. Okay. We have got to move on to the next part of the stream, but I am going to allow time for, I'm going to say 3 questions. So the first 3 good questions I see, I will ask. As a reminder, if you're just going to ask when something is getting added to the game, that question won't be passed on because we can't answer it for a multitude of reasons. But let's see. But if you have a
While you
question that
find
sounds a little bit
questions.
more specific, or about the design of the ship or the stats of the ship or something else, we can ask that. Okay, we've got 2 questions. I'm going to ask these 2 as one question because they're sort of about the same thing. They want to know if the Noble console will work with the Hull image refractor console and the oh god, where did it go? Pronus, of course I have. I listened to it before you did. Oh, and She is a Predator. Will it combine with that as well?
I'm not familiar with She's a Predator off the top of my head, but the whole image refractors just gives you a bunch of temp HP. I don't know why that would not interact with it. You will die. It won't prevent you from dying.
Yeah.
This is not a deal a bunch of damage to reduce your hull to 0. This is a kill effect. So there's no avoiding it.
It
they were
takes your hull
asking-
from whatever it is. It just
Sorry, I
deletes
was
the value and
misunderstanding.
it's 0. Oh, okay, what's the question?
Yes, that is correct. You just said that, but I think they were actually asking about the Grawl console and whether or not it stacks with hull image refractors in terms of the stealth cloak. Yes, stealth is just an additive function. You can run as many of them as will allow themselves to run. There might be other factors to those powers that I can't think of offhand that don't stack with one another for one reason or another, but the stealth value itself should totally stack.
All right, sounds
Yeah.
good. Kel MG has been trying to ask this question forever, so I'm gonna ask it. This is, I think, a Jeremy question. I'm gonna rephrase this and say, are the turn rate on the Surok and the proc on the Klingon weapons and the proc and damage on the Klingon weapons that we just released, are those working as intended, or are those something we're looking at?
The procs on the executor, I think is how we say it, weapon set are functional, but they aren't reporting correctly for what we want. We don't want to report hyperinflated damage numbers when we do a kill type effect. It should just be a kill effect that just sets your status to dead rather than dealing a bunch of damage. So I think there's some inconsistency, if I understand correctly, on the executor set. I think the dual beam banks do a bunch of damage when they proc, but the cannons just do a kill effect. They should all just be doing a kill effect. We don't want to hyperinflate like DPS logs with inaccurate values from that. So we'll be changing that. Now, alongside of that, though, we do want to investigate if there's a way to add kill events to the combat log, but I don't think that's an easy ask. So it probably wouldn't be in the short term.
Yeah. Nihilist Zero, we just released the noble class. When can we expect the peasant class for the rest of us? This ship is free, so you're all nobles. Congratulations. Let's see. Other questions about like the executor weapons and stuff, folks, feel free to ask in the Discord. I want to do one more question.
There was a question about the turn rate on the Surok. The turn rate on the Surok is low because it started looking quite ugly turning with a higher turn rate. But
Long
I think, Jeremy, we should have a look.
Ships.
Yeah, we should have a look at it, Jeremy, and see if we can just like ease it a little bit. It is a wide curve, should we say?
Well, I think it's probably safe to say it is where it should be based on the other stats and looking at comparative analysis and everything. I think if players think that it needs a higher turn rate, that's actually one of the easier stats to itemize. You get a bigger bonus from just a few pieces of equipment than you do from something like, something else like shield capacity is harder to itemize.
Captain B Money, you don't yell at anybody. We don't yell at people here. It's Star Trek. Let's see. Okay. Does anybody have a third question I can ask that isn't about this particular console? There's so many questions about that now. I opened the floodgates. Let's see. This is an interesting one. Not related to the ships, but Jeremy, do we have plans to take the parser that now exists on PC and find a way for console captains to be able to use it?
Nothing in the short term, but it is something that comes up in conversation from time to time. There's also an internal tool parser that is like built into the engine.
Yeah.
That a previous programmer got. It's only about 50-60% of the way there, and it doesn't have a good UI for getting it exposed to players.
Yeah.
But if we were to do anything for console, I think if we were to do anything for console in terms of parsing, that's the route we'd have to take, is actually like finish that whole feature and turn it into an actual feature. But I'll be honest, there's some concerns with that tool over how would it impact performance, and would enabling it in every TFO be a good idea or not? There's a lot of evaluation that still needs to go on with that. The alternative to that is that we do have a test map that we briefly had live on Tribble. I don't know if it's still accessible there. That was also another option that we had talked about enabling for console players, so that they would have some sort of, at least relative to itself, performance metric that they could use to check the performance of their ships.
Nice.
I guess that is all to say that we don't have any short-term solutions or things that we're actively working on, but we are aware that it is a shortcoming of playing on console and something that the community is interested in. So it does come up from time to time. I don't have any like major updates on it though.
Cool. All right, final question I'll answer, and then we're going to go to break and set up for talking about the documentary. Ramona wanted to know if we could tease anything more about why the login screen button was dropped to the bottom of the screen with the update this morning. As I said on Discord and socials, there was a baseline update to the game, and some code went live early. If y'all remember, years and years ago, Jeremy, can you pull up the reputation screen for a second?
Mhm.
On the reputation screen, before we added the fill all button, click select active project and select something. Before we added that fill all button at the bottom, there were we shrunk the buttons where you add things because we were going to add the fill all button, but the fill all button didn't go live. It's something similar to that. I don't want to say too much more because what's coming. How do I put this? What's coming is a big initiative, but all of the speculation I saw on Discord this morning was in the wrong direction. And it's I don't want to be like you guys. I don't want to be like don't get your super hopes up, but like don't pie in the sky this either. It is going to be something very cool. And it is going to have something that at least one part of it is something that I know a lot of you will very much appreciate. And I can't say too much more than that. But you will find out very soon. It's just a couple of weeks before that gets announced and goes live. So, yeah, fill all tunes. There you go. What are we filling them with, Ramona?
Yeah.
Never mind. Don't answer that.
No, it sees how many empty character slots you have and then just randomly generates characters to fill them all.
Guys, that's not true. That's not true. Please don't quote that. All right. We are going to go to a quick break while I set up for the next part of the stream. So I will stick around. Don't go anywhere. But while you're not going anywhere, if you were interested in checking out something kind of cool, I'm going to post a link to a YouTube video in the chat that y'all might enjoy. I'm going to post it in the Twitch chat. Sorry, YouTube, but it's also up if you look on the Star Trek Online YouTube and the Space Dock YouTube. You will also find a link to that. So click on that and jump on and take a quick watch, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you. It's not a quick watch. It's 20 minutes long, so take a long watch. Okay. Be right back.
there's a commercial break, Mike.
I was told that I switched right during a commercial break. So we're gonna stay here. Also, why am I not seeing half my people all of a sudden? That was working in the preview. Oh, there they are. Okay,
They've
cool.
been
You popped
replaced
up.
with
Great.
Jeez.
Great. Cool. So hello everybody. Welcome back. We're gonna wait just a few seconds here to let people get out of that ad before we fully return. Just gonna move some things around while we're doing that. There we go. That looks a lot better. Hope y'all are having a good one. I'll say two quick things. One, I saw somebody in YouTube chat who was asking when we were saying the thing about fill all characters in a few minutes ago. That was a joke somebody made in chat, and then Jeremy and I were riffing on it. There's nothing real coming that's called fill all characters, so apologies for the confusion. Thomas is weirdly off center. Let me fix that. Also, we are joined now by executive producer Thomas Maroney. Say hi, Thomas.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm reliable that way.
I know. I
It's
love
pretty
it.
much the exact same joke Jeremy made.
It's the joke that I expect from all of you on every stream.
No, all right, noted. Deep screens.
And one of your chairs is very squeaky. Okay, the other
Sorry,
thing.
that might be my chair.
The other thing that I need to mention very quickly is that Jeremy replied to me asking about the Sovereign set that gives you a battle cloak, which currently cannot be equipped on the Noble class. He says he's checking in a fix right now that removes all equipment restrictions from that console set. You can go ahead and mention this on stream if you like. So there we go. I have mentioned it on stream because I do like. So go forth, disperse that news into the world. Let everyone know. All right. I'm assuming we're back from ads by now. I hope so. So hello, everyone. Welcome back, Pundus and Jamie, and welcome for the first time, Thomas.
Thank you. Excited to be here. We've got a big day today.
Yeah, it's exciting. For those of you who missed it or didn't click on the link when I threw it out there, we have worked with Space Dock. And they have just released, as of about 30 minutes ago, the full extended cut of the documentary trailer that we're talking about today. So the full 20-minute version, as Thomas initially intended, is now live on both the Space Dock and Star Trek Online YouTube channels. I will post the link in chat once again if you want to go and check that out, which is really awesome. And I think we should probably start with just talking about that, Thomas. How did the collaboration with Space Dock come together to release the full trailer?
Well, we've done a lot of work with them in the past, right? We did the was it the X Astris series that
Yeah.
we worked with them on, which were kind of medium form or short form ish. I think they were like 5-10 minutes long. Videos that we did with a lore about certain ships from Star Trek Online, some of our more popular ships, and so we had a great relationship with them. And then basically when we did the first edit of this trailer and it came in at 20 minutes, Ark was like, yeah, we can't really use this for a marketing piece. It's too long for anybody in the right mind to call it a trailer. And so we went through and we made some cuts, but then I thought like, well, man, it would be really cool to still get the longer version out there. Is there anybody that that we know that might be interested in taking this and sort of finishing it off for us? And I think the idea was actually planted in my head by Jamie right when we started working on this. Jamie made a comment like, this does seem like a weird format for a trailer. Maybe it is something that would be more appropriate for a channel like Space Dock. And I think that was a good point, but also, we did need to release it on our channel, right? And we kind of kept calling it a trailer, even though it really wasn't a trailer internally. We kept calling it a trailer just for the sake of momentum, I guess. But that always stuck with me. And then, so when it came around to Ark wanting to kind of cut down, which I get that, and they're right in terms of it's just at some point you have to
you have to kill your darlings, as they say. But that came into my head later about like, oh well, this is the kind of stuff that Space Dock does all the time. Like these kinds of videos are videos that they like to make and produce, and so it seemed like a natural fit. And so we reached out to them, and they were more than happy to. We gave them all the raw footage, basically, of what we'd already put together, and then they came in and edited in the last 5 minutes of footage, and we cleaned up some of the graphics and stuff. There's some new graphics, some new maps and stuff in there, and it all came together really, really nicely. So I hope people give the extended cut a watch and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch through the whole thing. I haven't seen the full cut yet, and I know it includes more of Eliza and Kevin, which they're going to be very excited about. But let's go back in time a little bit and start out with how this whole thing began. We've talked a little bit about it on stream before, and I know, I've made some jokes about this being your longtime dream, Thomas, but this really has been a longtime dream of yours to do this kind of like serious war documentary about, or maybe not war, but this kind of serious documentary about this period of time in Star Trek history, and when the Federation is first kind of making its first steps. What do you think about that was so exciting to you?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I've always wanted to see this. I never thought I would be the one that would make it. But be the change you want to see in the world, I guess. But I think that when you look at what Star Trek Enterprise is and where it sits in sort of the continuity, it takes place before the Federation. The main characters are people who go on to be integral to the founding of the United Federation of Planets, and so in that way, it's sort of like analogous to like 1776 or Hamilton, right? Like those kinds of media that everybody loves about the founding of the United States and everything. So like Enterprise being that era for Star Trek, I always thought was a really fertile ground for storytelling. I even made, for a Star Trek convention one year, I even made I wish I thought to wear it, a t-shirt that has, it looks like the poster from Hamilton, but it's Archer. And so, and then instead of Hamilton, the title is Jonathan.
You want me to run upstairs and get mine?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, really? Okay. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
It's all right, cool. So this was a very, like, there are a lot of like eras like that are ripe with opportunities for story, right? Because they have a lot of conflict, they have a lot of change, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of like, in that's certainly something that we can resonate with right now in terms of uncertainty, but also holding on to hope, but being in a very tumultuous time of change, right? And so that all, I think, is a really cool thing about the Enterprise era, and thinking about all of that inspired me to go. To take that approach when we're talking about, like, we knew from the beginning, we knew that this was going to be an Enterprise era bundle of starships. And so when thinking about the trailer for this bundle and how could it be different than the last few trailers we made, a documentary, like in-universe Ken Burns style documentary, seemed like a really good fit, because the history of the era is so rich with stories and is something that I think hasn't really been explored too much through that lens. So yeah, I really think that there's a it's really interesting for me to explore the universe in a way of somebody who's lived through it, right? Like, of like, if this was all real, like, how would people remember it, and what lens would they view it through, and what would they think about it? So yeah, so you've got the the Jonathan shirt.
So there you go, everybody.
Yeah,
I love this logo. The shirt's gotten a little too small for me in recent years, but
yeah, but it's a Federation musical.
Yeah. It's great. I love this very much. And no, it was the other thing that you actually wrote a song for. It wasn't for Jonathan. It was for the other Hamilton parody that you and I were working on way back
Right.
when.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody wants to team up with Thomas to make Jonathan the musical, we do know
Yeah,
the
do
people at Paramount who will say no. So where did we leave off while I was sprinting upstairs to grab a T-shirt?
I was just talking about the era of Enterprise and why it was so rich historically to like have this sort of documentary treatment.
Yeah. So we've got the inspiration then. What was the initial process of putting this thing together? How did it all get started?
So you kind of, with all these trailers, really it starts with you have the concept, right? And so like when I thought about the documentary, I'm like, man, that would be so cool. There's no way anybody's gonna let me do this.
And then you were made executive producer and
right. But I mean, like, even before I was made executive producer, I knew that to do it, I wanted to do the talking head segments that you directed. And I knew that that was going to be really important to like pulling it off and to like selling the format, right? And that's what was going to make it special. And so pretty early, one of the very first things I did to get started was actually go to ARC and say, hey, um, you know, these trailers are really popular. I'd like to make a new one. It's going to be a different sort of concept this time. Could we get a little bit of budget for like this live action segment? And yeah, and ARC was actually really supportive, and they passed it up the chain, and we got the budget to shoot those shots, and we worked with you on it. But I like that's the kind of but I knew that if we didn't get that, I probably would have gone a different direction, right? So I started that like pretty much first before I even had written the script and everything. I wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to do that because that was, without that it wouldn't have been nearly as cool. Like it could have been okay, but it wouldn't have felt as authentic, right?
Without like real people in outfit
Right.
costumes, like talking and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but after that, then the process is kind of pretty much as similar as the other trailers we did. Like I write a script, although it was a little weird. I guess it wasn't really similar because that's when I started with a script and a really long script, right? Obviously it's 20 minutes long. um, so I did write a script for the Heritage Bundle trailer. That was the first ship trailer we did. And then I did not write a script I wrote a script of like action, but not dialogue for the TMP Bundle trailer. That trailer, all the dialogue was me combing through game audio we had and just finding audio that like fit together to make a story. And that was rough, but anyway,
You lived, but
that's
barely.
what we did that time. Yeah, and then for the Timeless Legacy bundle, that was just a poem. God, I'm forgetting his name.
That's all right. Somebody in chat
but that was a poem.
Time. They'll know.
Yeah. And so that was the script for that one, but you still have to write the action out, right? So you write the script of what happens either through dialogue or just describing what you want in each shot. And then once you write the script, then you go to the storyboards and you start storyboarding it out. So I don't know if you want to put up the
absolutely do. Let me make sure it's not going to cover everything. Here we go. Yeah, that should work. I just need to. All right. So this. Oh, hold on. I might have it. So this is the what's called a it's on Miro, but it's like a Project Vision board kind of thing, right? So where do you want to start on here?
So let's start with the storyboards up there. So like zoom in and you can see, I mean, like if people watch it, they'll recognize these shots, right? So like I do kind of when I'm building the storyboards out, thinking about, okay, I've got the script out, so how am I dividing the script into different shots and what is each shot showing? And for this, you can also see like we've labeled the different shots because with the documentary, you have lots of different types of shots. You're not just doing, for the rest of our trailers, it was all just, here's in-game footage, or here's some pre-rendered stuff that Keen is doing for the whole trailer. But for this, it was like lots of different types of things. So there are animated graphics, there are in-game animations, there are pre-rendered, like we call them static renders, but they're still like 3D motion renders. And then of course there are paint overs of screenshots from the show. And so we had to like label all those assets because different people were going to work on all of those things. And so unlike previous trailers where it was a lot of work by a couple people or one person, this trailer was still a lot of work, but it was much more distributed. So you had concept artists like Jamie. I mean, Jamie did most of the paint overs. Then you had Keen doing the static renders. You had our animators, Weston and Paul, doing the in-game animations with the space combat and stuff like that, and then I did the lion's share of like the graphics myself, and those were animated by Sean Roberts at ARC, who edited the trailer together, and then Phil Dunn, our art lead, also contributed a couple graphics too. So a lot of people put their hands on this, but I think per person it was a lot less work, which is kind of surprising. When you think about how much bigger it is, it still wasn't as intense as the like the Heritage Bundle trailer, for example.
So I wanted to follow up on one thing you said there about how Jamie did most of the paint overs. And Jamie, I'm going to drag you in here. When you're painting over, when you're painting over something like this, so like this is an actual shot from the movie, and then obviously in the trailer it becomes this like beautiful painting looking thing with like parallax and stuff. What's the process like of doing a paint over? I've always been fascinated by it, but I've never really known what the process is.
Yeah, it actually. Real quick, hold on, because you can pan down and you can compare the shots on the storyboard with the final paint overs. The paint overs are in the big black section on the Miro board, so that might be kind of fun for people to. So yeah, if you zoom out.
Yeah, sorry, I'm struggling with controlling Miro a little bit, but I'm getting there. There it is. Okay, go Jamie, go. Tell us your secrets.
Sure. Pan over to that's perfect. Yeah. So depends on what you want to do for a paint over, right? Like these, I had assigned 20 or 22 maybe, feels about right. Different shots that I needed to do for this. So the kind of first thing was just to find a rhythm and to find a like kind of sort of factory line, like, okay, this is how I process every image, done, on to the next one. So for these ones, it was basically using Photoshop to split them into foreground and background layers to start with. So using just like selection tools, and then using what we call content-aware fill, which is, every artist's, every digital artist's favorite tool to paint in the background. And I'll see if I can find you what the background actually looks like on some of these, because the parallax that you see is pretty subtle. So I could get away with a lot of mess. Let me see. Trailer. Nothing good in. No, nothing good in there. It's been a while since I've dug through these files. Let's see. I think I don't know if you were on the same mirror board as me.
I don't know that I am either.
No, probably not.
I'll just DM it to you.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll throw it on screen.
Yeah. So like this is what the background looks like for the shot that you're looking at right now. Whenever it's sent on Slack. Okay, so like behind the characters, it's kind of just weird abstract shapes that don't really mean anything, but you don't see that. And then slapping a sort of just a very fast blur on every background so that it kind of hides a bit of that jankiness. And then for the foreground, it was finding a kind of base, just like oil paint filter that works, dialing that in, and then just doing a bit of touch up, getting in some rim light, and then like kind of putting highlights on any details that we wanted to bring forwards. And they're pretty rough. Like, I'm not going to shy around. These are not masterpieces.
I mean,
so,
they look pretty freaking good to me, but continue.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, anything's going to look good when you're painting from a professionally shot TV show. But we wanted to, kind of give these a little bit of pop, right? We wanted them to be passable as, quick flashes of key art, as opposed to just shots from the show. Something that I kind of lent into is. If you ever see GIFs of, your favorite shows and films on Twitter, Tumblr, wherever, they go kind of above and beyond to color grade them to make them really stand out, and to make them look as good as you remember them looking. So that was kind of the approach that I took with a lot of these, is just to kind of make them pop a bit more. So I think if you want to keep panning through the main storyboard, I'll just drop in and call out when there's something I want to mention.
Sure, I just wanted to get a little quiz there. Thomas, you want to talk? So I didn't realize, I'm looking at this, and so when you were storyboarding, some of the graphics in the documentary you had already made, basically, and finished, like this one and the this one that was later animated by Sean.
Some of them, so that those logos actually are from, I think they're from Discovery. Like, we just got those graphics from Paramount as part of their Discovery dump, and so I just put those in the documentary. So they're official graphics, so I did that when I could, but I mean, a lot of it had to be bespoke. And so the graphics in the storyboard are very rough. Like, if you pan through, you'll see they're very silly, kind of. Some of them are, but it's enough to like tell people, like, this is the idea, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. I enjoy making these storyboards. I did all the storyboarding for season 35 too, all the cutscenes in that. And we have a lot of tools in the engine actually to make it pretty easy to storyboard these, taking screenshots from like the character editor and applying animations to characters so they have the right expressions and stuff. Ships, it's super easy because you just sort of I just need it at that angle, and then I can cut out the background really fast and drop it in. So I had a whole process set up that I've done, but yeah,
Very cool.
I think people might notice that some of the quotes changed because we didn't want to like give you enough time. It would have taken like 45 seconds or something to read some of those quotes, so we trimmed them down quite a bit. And we also, I really wanted to use like the Archer quotes, but we weren't really able to, get Scott Bakula to read them for us. So that's why we decided not to have VO for the quotes, because it would have been weird to have somebody else, even though documentaries do that all the time, but it would have been weird to have somebody else voice his lines, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody in chat, Xander Redbeard said the constant pan note that you had here. I just ruined your mirror board again. He thought it said constant pain, which, same bro. Same. I was very excited to see what it would look like when we got to the live action stuff, and I don't know what I expected, but it was this.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to dedicate I just used the same image. So there's this Vulcan, I think that's Sarek from Star Trek Discovery.
That sounds right.
And then for the human historian who ended up being Eliza, that one I used the aliens guy from Ancient Aliens.
Incredible. Oh yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
I want to call out, if you go to the just the third image, I think. I'm going to send you something again.
Okay, the third image.
Sorry, the third set of panels. Okay. I think it's the third one.
Let's see. So 1, 2, 3. So this one?
Sorry, I'm watching with 5 seconds delay on
Oh,
on stream.
let me share the screen with you so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, please.
There you go. There you go.
Where?
Can you
the
not see it?
screen?
Oh my god. All right, I'm posting the link in chat one more time. I don't know why that doesn't work.
Right.
The director should be able to share his screen, but whatever. BDO, I
Thank
have
you.
notes for you.
Thank you much.
All right, so is this the
Yeah,
correct set
guys.
of panels?
No. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Okay, let me go to my copy of the Miro board and count them.
What are you looking for,
What are you looking
Jamie?
for? Yeah.
I just want to look at that one shot we had of Romulus City.
Yeah, it's to the left. It's at
Yeah.
page 3. At the top, the pages are numbered.
Oh yeah. Okay.
so you
Page
just go to
three.
page 3.
Page,
Oh, so
yeah,
this
page
paint
3.
over.
Page 3.
Right here. This is what you're talking about.
Yeah. So in the trailer, so these are the screenshots that I was going to paint over in these storyboards. These aren't the final paint overs. But in the trailer, this was a really fun one because I tried to imagine what a kind of enterprise era version of the city would be. So there's a bunch of changes in the paint and the actual version that we use, and I'll send you that now.
Yeah, please do.
But
And then unfortunately that got cut from the short version. So,
so
But you can see
maybe
it
you shouldn't
now.
show it. Maybe you should-
no,
yeah.
it should be in the space dock version. So
Oh, that's really cool.
Um,
Sorry, I'm gonna
yeah.
put it up for you guys right now. But my immediate reaction upon seeing it was, "Wow, that's cool." Enter.
Yeah, so it's subtle, but it's a small. It's kind of imagining what the city was looking like when it was being built and when there was many fewer buildings and stuff.
nice.
And that's what I found really enjoyable about this project is finding those shots from other bits of Star Trek media and working out how we could kind of backport them into this era. I think there might be a couple more, or maybe those do not. Yeah, there's one or two more I think
Okay, I'm just putting this
that
up
I
on
was really
screen for
happy
a
with.
second because I love what you did with it. I love all the the
That's
beautiful
beautiful.
smoke and stuff. That looks great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I just like the scaffolding and stuff on the wall, just to
Yeah.
it's gonna feel like, and if you're not paying attention, which you should be, if you're not paying attention, it's gonna feel like the exact same shot, but it's just slightly tweaked.
Jeremy says that
also,
very same image was used as or that same image was very much used as inspiration for the architecture of New Romulus, to which, of course, then someone responded, "So can you finish your New Romulus and make it look like that?" We love you all.
I actually also want to mention on the same page as that, there's shots. Scene 2, shot 3. This is another one that I was really proud of. I'll send you that as well.
Whoa.
Oh, it is. Those paint overs are on that. If you just scroll down,
They're at the
all the
bottom
paint
for
overs
me.
are.
Oh yeah.
the bottom,
Here's
yeah.
all the paint overs. That's way faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So this
yeah.
is what I
Holy
was
crap.
really happy with. This was taking a random bit of B-roll of Vulcan and then doing a pretty extensive.
Yeah,
paint
that
over
turned
to
out
add a
so
big
cool.
nuke.
That's very cool.
And then there's a Taplana Hath. I think it's Taplana Hath type ship from Discovery, because I like, especially when it's something like Discovery, which sometimes people can be kind of dismissive about. I like bringing design elements from that kind of media into stuff like this to kind of make it feel cohesive as a
Right,
universe.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do with Stow all the time, right? Like that's
Right,
one of the
yeah.
big mission statements, I'd say, of the game.
We take everything and we shove it together in a box and then we twist it until it locks together and fits. Also,
Yeah.
that bike. Oh, that's the crash ship. Okay, I thought that was somebody flying by on a bike. That's the Taplana Hoth. I was gonna say that. I was gonna say that jet bike when, but
Mad Max Vulcan holobike would be
yeah,
cool.
it would be very cool. All right, so we're going through the storyboards here. This is really cool to see both the befores and afters, and to talk a little bit about your process, Thomas. I'm gonna show off another paint over of Vulcan High Command here. So this is the original, and then this is the paint over here.
Yeah, that one's
Again,
Yeah,
pretty
this is a
pretty
fun one.
pretty
similar.
sweet. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So Thomas, what was the process then? You know, the first step is getting these storyboards done and assigning out all of the shots. But then you all have to sort of produce creating a movie out of, you know, I think how many shots did you say there were? Like 60, something like that?
Oh man, I don't know
So
if I ever
many?
counted, but
Okay.
yeah, like we could do kind of do that math. There are
Six by six?
shots per pages, and so we can see how
Let's
many
see.
pages there are and do some quick math.
We're scrolling some more. Okay. This is page 19.
19.
Someone do 6 by 19 real fast.
So that's like 120 minus probably maybe minus 10 or 15 because there are a couple extras
Yeah, there's a couple things
when we
got
move
cut.
over to different scenes.
So
So yeah, like over 100. I would
Yeah.
say it's pretty safe to say they're over
114.
100.
Going by
114.
6 by 19.
okay.
Yeah.
114 minus give or take. So what's the process then? I mean, that's a huge organizational task to get 114 plus or minus shots, you know, created by different artists, put together, tracked, sent off to the editor, edited correctly. How did you work all that?
Yeah, I mean, I delegated.
Good.
I mean, at that point, like when after I finished the storyboards, it really I passed the art off to Phil Dunn, right, our art lead, and he kind of took over from there, scheduling people out and um, uh, making sure that people had the time to do what they needed to do, kind of going over, the first step for Jamie was obviously figuring out, okay, well, what is the paint over stylistically, what does that mean? What is that going to look like, right? And so Jamie I think you spent like 3 or 4 days, right, figuring that out, or was it just a day? I don't know. It was
It's pretty short, yeah.
yeah. And then the animators, so like so I had a great support from Phil, who really managed the sort of creation of the art and getting that schedule organized. And then the great thing about the storyboard is that it was a really useful touchstone for everybody to sort of organize around, right? So it was very clear, like all the shots were numbered the same, so it was very clear when we turned in stuff to the editor that, like, okay, this is this is what this paint over is for the shot. Like, we named everything pretty consistently, and the storyboards, all that matched up. So like dropping all that stuff together for the first draft, I think went pretty quick for the editor. And then it was just a matter of like for Sean doing all the like the motion graphics, the pans, the little beeps and boops and all that stuff. But like kind of around that time, I was fully EP at that point, so I really didn't have the bandwidth to contribute a lot directly. What I did do was I did, like I said, most of the graphics. So if you pan over a little bit down at the bottom there, you have the final graphics that we used. Past this, once we get past the storyboard or the paint overs, we'll start to see some of the graphics.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you can see. So if you like zoom in, there's actually like a lot of detail in those maps, and I had to make those maps really huge so that we could zoom and pan around, right?
Dang.
I made them. Yeah, and I made them in layers so that you get some really nice parallax between the map part and then the underlying nebulas and stars, so it felt that there was some depth, right? And Sean did a great job of bringing that to life. And I would, shout out to Larry Nemechek's Stellar Cartography, Jeff Mandel's, let's see, Star Trek Star Charts. Those two books were super important to getting these maps right. I ended up using mostly Stellar Cartography as my primary reference because that was a more recent one, and it was one that also actually had a map of the Earth-Romulan War and some like key moments of that war. So so that was really useful. But this Vulcan thing we're looking at now, that's actually a map in like Vulcan computer style, which I took from Jeff Mandel's Star Charts book. He had a map like this in his book, and so I recreated it using some of the graphics that I had, and I think it turned out really cool.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, and then you start to see the ship schematics and everything. I would have loved to go hardcore on these. They just didn't have time. But it would have been cool to do like more like actual stats and stuff.
would be
But
super neat to
yeah.
do some cross sections someday. Maybe we can get that. That's something that we suggest now. Start thinking about next
Right.
month and then finish in 2 years. But it would be a cool thing to do. Neat. Okay. And so then we should probably talk about. Oh, I love this though. Hold on, I want to go back to this this newspaper article stuff. Was that you, Thomas, as well, or was that one of the other
Yeah.
artists? Yeah.
No, I
Nice.
did those, and I wrote the text too.
Of course. Let's see.
Like it's all like if you pause it, you can actually read it.
Yeah. And you didn't even put jokes in there.
There is a joke. There's a Homeworld reference. The
Oh, yeah?
Sujet's journey.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nice. Fantastic. All right. So, pundits.
Actually, there's one other joke. Hold on.
Yeah.
There's one other joke I do want to mention. Reference in there. One of the other freighters, I think, is called Hera's Dream.
Yep.
Which is based on a folk song called Dawson's Christian, which is one of my favorite songs about this ghost ship. That it's really cool because it's like a folk song about like Davy Jones or God, it just escaped my the ghost ship Flying Dutchman, right? It's like a sci-fi version of that in a
Nice.
folk song. It's
That's
really
cool.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. I only discovered folk singing was a thing like 2 or 3 years ago. I never went to old enough conventions, I think.
Right. Those conventions are really, I mean, like I primarily went to Star Trek Las Vegas and other like big Comic Cons and stuff, but those older like sci-fi conventions that are kind of bend more towards literary sci-fi are a lot of fun, and they have a whole different feel about them.
Yeah. All right. So, Pundus, my friend. Also, great joke, birdiest one in chat, saying we should call these newspapers news braca. That's just very, very good. So, Pundus, you were taking over. I don't actually know what this kind of animation is called, like a time frozen animation. You call it a render, but everything's a render. What is it?
They are the ones labeled 3D static renders. If you go up a bit, there's one with the Kumaris. Like those thumbnails that are labeled 3D static renders are the ones that I
Okay.
did.
Very cool. So what's the
Yeah.
process of like making one of those?
Before I explain it, can I go on a little tangent about my personal history?
Sure. I don't see why not.
Okay, so I grew up watching Star Trek, and it instilled a lot of things into me. First off, it shaped my morals and ethics, and infinite diversity and infinite combination. Star Trek is a huge part of what makes me who I am, and it also instilled in me my love for space exploration in general. But on an artistic side, it is what inspired me to take up 3D art as what's now my job. Growing up and watching Star Trek, the Next Generation reruns all the way through Enterprise at the time, watching those and seeing the visual effects used in them was a big inspiration for why I do what I do now. And for the 3D, and so it's been an absolute honor to get to work on both like this, the 3D static renders for this, as well as the previous trailer, and on top of that, Ex Astris, as well as Star Trek Picard, because visual effects is a big passion of mine. And it's one thing that's really interesting. Mike, can you pull up the first render that I slacked you
Yes.
earlier
can.
today?
Wow. And it's completely. Hold on. That is wild. How did that even occur? I opened it and it rotated it and shot it to one side. There we go.
Cool.
There it is.
I'm not sure that was my artistic intention.
Wait.
But yeah, so this is one thing that's really cool about watching shows like Star Trek, which went from the 1980s all the way to the 2000s, and also shows like Stargate, which had almost the same time period, as seeing how visual effects evolved. So this is something that Jeremy asked about and Thomas sort of answered in a previous stream. But back in the olden days, explosions and such, those were done using stock footage composited onto an image of a starship. Like if you think of TNG, there's an episode that sticks out in my head a lot, Unnatural Selection of the USS Lantry. When they scuttle the Lantry at the end of the episode, they just paste a big explosion on top of it, and in a couple frames, the Lantry just disappears under it. And as it evolved, when we got to DS9 and we had like more budget and better technology, we started to have, like, even at the end of the Next Generation and like Cause and Effect, we started to have like models blown up. And of course, they did this in the movies earlier as well. But evolving from that in DS9, we had 3D renders. And in those, they could composite stock footage of explosions. And later on, after Enterprise ended, technology evolved such that we could simulate actual explosions with fluid dynamics. So in the modern day, this is done in software such as Embergen, where you actually simulate an actual fiery explosion, like a gas explosion, on your computer, and it will have all of the information required. It calculates all of the voxels and such as a volumetric cloud. It'll have all of the information like density, like black body radiation, how hot it is, how orange it gets, all of that. And you can export that as its own file format. It's got an open VDB. And so when I started working on the 3D stacker renders, that was something very important that I had to get right, because Thomas had a couple that he wanted cool explosions. And the whole conceit of the 3D static renders was that they were scenes frozen in time. Thomas actually sent me a really cool reference of, I think it was MechWarrior, of like vignettes of mechs in combat, and the camera moves through them, and there's no motion of the mechs themselves, but like leaves or debris would be falling in the environment, and the weapons fire would still be sort of animated with lens flash flickering. So
it was very famously used for that series of Gears of War trailers back in the day. I think it was Gears of War 2.
No, Mad World, whatever.
Yeah.
Mad World trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I saw what Thomas wanted, I knew, one, I had to use OpenVDBs, because you can only get so much out of a 2D explosion like image card. So I, in my own time, for my own world, a long time ago, I had purchased a set of OpenVDB explosions. So that's what is used here. They get rendered in Blender, and you can, when the camera moves through them, you can actually see it in the 3D scene. And so this was the first shot that I actually worked on, because when Thomas sent me all of the shots that I would need to do, I looked at it, and this, to me, at the time, looked like, well, this is the most complicated one. So I want to tackle this first, and if I can nail the look here, it'll be easier to replicate on the easier shots in the future. So this went through the most iteration. The station in the background is a quick kit bash that I did to make the Utopia Planitia stations look more Enterprise era. It has different hull coloration and has added solar panels. But I went through a bunch of iterations, nailing the look down for this. So this is much like the MechWarrior examples that Thomas showed me. As the camera pans through the environment, all of the debris slowly rotates as if there's still some life, but the explosion, the ships, the station, all frozen in time with just the weapons fire still pulsing onward.
Nice. I really love how that looks.
And so this was the first one I did, and once this was settled and Thomas approved of it, it nailed the look for the rest of them.
The unfortunate thing, Pundus, is now that I know you can do this,
yeah.
I asked you to do one for the Noble. I'll probably keep asking you to do these. They're great. Especially since you banged the Noble one out in like 30 minutes. So now I'm like, oh, Pundus can just do it whatever. I have terrible expectations for you.
Yeah, for these, like volumetrics are quite intensive to render. Like for the shot in the on the documentary, I used Blender Cycles for the actual volumetric rendering, because it's much higher quality than Blender Eevee, which is more real time. And so the ships and all of the other elements were rendered in Eevee, with the explosion rendered in Cycles and comped together in After Effects. Yeah, it's it was very fun to work on these, and I'm so glad to be able to continue working on trailers like this.
Awesome. Do you want to look at the second one you sent me?
Yeah.
All right. It's probably going to freak out when I turn it on, too. Oh, that one's a little better. Let's just shrink that down so people can see the whole thing. There we go. So this is...
So for this shot,
yeah.
This shot, I don't have much technical information to exposit, but I do have some fun facts. Like I said, the visual effects is my passion, and
Every
I
time
think
you
it's
say
only
that,
in
the
this
graphic
shot.
design is my passion. It pops into my head.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So for that shot, one of the things that I wanted to do was that the NP in the background, I think this is one of the few shots where the red names and registries of other ships are visible. I named that NP after Eden Effects, one of the visual effects companies in Enterprise. So that's the
Nice.
Eden NP07, I think.
I love all of
Foundation
you nerds
Imaging
and your nerd
later.
references.
Yep. Foundation Imaging, which later became Eden Effects, did a lot of the visual effects work for, I think, Voyager all the way to the end of Enterprise. And the NP that we see in Star Trek Enterprise is the Warp Delta, as it was known then, is a ship that they had worked on. Besides that, the other fun facts that I have about this scene is that I think this is one of the last few scenes I worked on. So even though I locked off how it looked from the first scene with the Romulans attacking the station to this one, there are a few compositing changes, like this one has more bloom on the ship's hull compared to the station's hull in the first one. But the other thing is also that the NP has a shuttle bay, and that shuttle bay was actually cobbled together by Thomas for the 15th anniversary trailer to be put on the back of the Pioneer.
Huh.
It was all pretty cobbled together, so it's not anything that players can use, but I ripped it out and slotted it in the back of the NP there and hit a little shuttle pod in the back of it.
It really sells the shot though.
Yeah.
Like it was
really
really worth doing.
Well, I don't know
Definitely.
if you're looking at chat, and if you're not, I'm glad. But as soon as the shot popped up, everyone was like "Shuttle Bay." So that's fantastic.
I got a question. I got a question.
Yeah.
Does the buoy actually fit in the shuttle bay?
The buoy scale in game is a mystery to me off the top of my head. I am not sure if it actually fits in the shuttle bay in game, but
it would in universe. It would fit in universe for sure.
Jamie, the answer to that question is: does the shot need it to fit in the shuttle bay?
Oh, to be honest, I was expecting the answer to be that question and moving on.
Yeah.
Although that does lead me on to my second fun fact. So I think, if I recall correctly, for this shot, like you do see some buoys in the shuttle bay. I think you see one like being prepped on the end of the shuttle bay there. But I think the buoy that's closer to the camera, I made it bigger on purpose. And part of that is because I'm a little joker, and I named the buoy Echo 67 for all the zoomers out there. You can read it in the
How dare you! How dare you!
Nice.
And I'm glad it's readable, and I'm glad Thomas let me do that to be a little funny.
You know what? I think I always, because I never looked too closely, I always thought it said Echo 47, which was like, oh, it's a cute Star Trek joke, and I never really.
I did ask you if I could do that, and you said yes. So.
Yep. You know what? Well, you gotta pass me.
You gotta make a new render where the sides of the buoy are just doing this. Awesome. Well, those are really, really cool pundits. That might be one of my favorite parts of the entire documentary, because I just love shots like that, and I love hearing about the process of doing it. We're coming up on about 2.5 hours of this beautiful stream. So what I want to ask, and then we'll do a couple questions about the documentary. So folks who have been spamming questions about game mechanics and stuff in the chat, we're not going to talk about that anymore today, but keep an eye out for future streams, and please post in the Discord. But before that, I just want to ask, Thomas, how do you feel about all of it now? Is this kind of your baby that you've worked on for an extremely long period of time? It's it's come together. Both versions of it are released to the public. What are your sort of final thoughts on how this project all worked out?
I mean, I'm really proud of it, and it really, it's rare that you can you attempt to do something and then the final result is meets or exceeds your hopes or expectations, right? And so I want to give credit to Flo, our writer. She was in the booth when we did the narration recording. And our narrator, Eric Bra, like he really ties it all together, right? Like
Yeah.
his narration is top, like super professional, and fits right at home as in the kind of Ken Burns style and everything. And so I really want to make sure that they get credit for doing so much important like underlying work to bring all these different elements and tie them together, and it really sells the format. And so yeah, I'm really proud. I'm really grateful for everybody's hard work. I'm grateful that everybody took it seriously and that they were willing to do something that felt, that I think was a little weird and out there. But I also am grateful that everybody loved the trailer and that everybody loved the bundle, and that it seemed to have um, connected with people in a way that I was, really worried about, because it was a lot of work. And so you invest a lot of time and effort into something like this, and then you kind of just have to hope that it lands the way that you want it to. And I think we did. I think everybody really enjoyed it, and I know the team is really proud of it. And one of the things that I was really excited about with this trailer is that we got to bring so many different people in to work on it, right? It wasn't just the animators. We got to give the concept artist something really cool, public facing to do. Because I think people don't realize that, like, for a concept artist, like 80%, 80 to 90% of the work they do never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
Like the public never see that stuff. I mean, sometimes they can post some of it on your art station, but a lot of it's covered by NDA, or it's a lot of interstitial sketches that you spend a lot of time on before you do the final nicely illustrated piece, right? So giving Gokun and Jamie the opportunity to work on things that are going to be front and center, I think was something I'm really glad we got to do, and to do it in a way that everybody has really really enjoyed. I think that's awesome. So yeah, no, I'm really happy. I'm glad that we got to make this thing that I think people didn't expect, but I think definitely fills the niche for these ships in a great way. And just the simple act of creating um uh changes the world, right? like
Yeah.
like putting something cool into the world makes the world a better place, by virtue of doing it. And so I'll always be really satisfied and feel very proud when I get to be a part of that. And also, credit and thank you to you for working with the actors and shooting those awesome sequences that really they also tie it together, and they also sell the format. And so, like, I don't think we talked about it much. Is there anything you want to say
Yeah,
about the live action
I
stuff?
realized as I was wrapping up, it's like I didn't talk about myself
Yeah.
at all. That's fairly typical.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Thomas reached out to me again. I think I said this before, but long before there was any talk of me coming back to Arc and Cryptic and Star Trek Online, just to say, hey, I want to shoot these live action sequences. Do you think you can do it? And it was a ton of fun. It was it's I'm really pleased with how well it looks on screen next to all of the beautiful work all of these artists did, because we did have some money to work with, but we didn't have a lot of money to work with, and we were able to still like pay the actors and rent a teleprompter for them to read the script, and then all of the other equipment was stuff I had lying in my garage. And we found a really really beautiful location to film. I think Kevin and Eliza are just kind of superheroes and did such a bang up job with the scripts. That's Kevin Allen and Eliza Pearl were the two actors who appear in the trailer. And it was a really really fun experience, and I was really really glad to be a part of it. At the time, I thought it was going to be my sort of maybe last hurrah with Star Trek Online, and then it turned out to be my first new hurrah with Star Trek Online. So that was great. All right. Well, thank you, all of you, so much for being here. Thank you to Pundus. Thank you to Jamie. Thank you to Thomas. Keen, I'm gonna call you Pundus for the rest of your life, and I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try and fix that.
That's awesome.
I also wanted to quickly read out for all of you. We had a first-time chat from Kragon, who said, the trailer brought me back to STO after a few-month hiatus. Glad to be back. So, well
Nice.
done, everybody.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Glad to hear.
Love to
Welcome
hear.
back.
Yeah,
Welcome
welcome
back. Welcome back.
Oh, giveaways. Yes, we can do a giveaway today. Y'all want a giveaway? I can do a giveaway. Nightbot. Thank you for reminding me. Whoever asked for that. Angel of Death.
While you sort that, I wanna riff quickly. One of the things that you mentioned, Thomas, was that Gokun, who is one of my fellow concept artists, he did a very cool paint over for this. It's the one of being on a Vulcan bridge. He actually designed like a full kind of front kind of quarter of a Vulcan bridge. Phil, our art lead, has been very keen about us doing some more kind of bridge design sort of stuff. So that was a bit of a test to see how well it would work, and I think he did a really kind of awesome job with that. So yeah, I don't know if you're watching Gokun, but yeah, that was a really really cool job. Well done.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, I'm going to set up the giveaway right now. It is your time now to post in chat. Just post anything you want in chat. Well, don't post anything gross in chat. And that will get you eligible for the giveaway. Yep, there you go, Pundus. You're not eligible, though, buddy. And it crossed you out because you're technically a mod. So, wrong user level. I don't even have to uneligible you. All right, starting to come in. I'm going to let this go for a few more minutes. Are there any other fun stories or fun details that I didn't ask about that y'all wanted to throw out for the chat? By the way, the prize we're giving away is another T6 coupon. If you're declared a winner in chat, then you will please reach out to me either on Discord or via Twitch Whispers to let me know your character name and your ad handle you want the T6 coupon on. All right.
Yeah, I do have a little extra tidbit. So the stalking Makras thing, I think we've already talked about how that's based on inspired by the Flying Tigers from World War II. But the patch that I made for them, it has the head of this like alien creature. It'll be in the finished graphics section if you want to pen down to it. Yeah. And that is actually inspired by a drawing from an old, speaking of FASA, RPG, Star Trek RPG book. I think it was this, no, Last Unicorn. Sorry, it wasn't FASA. It was Last Unicorn Games. But so this book called Among the Clans was an Andorian source book. And they actually did use that book in reference on Enterprise.
Oh, nice.
They took some elements from this Among the Clans book and when writing some of the Andorian lore for Star Trek Enterprise. And so this creature, the Makra, is actually in that book. And I did the drawing based on the drawing from the book and everything. So that's a deep cut for anybody familiar with the old Star Trek RPGs. Thought they might get a kick out of it.
Someone said it looks like Angel of Death says it looks like an angry doggy. I mean, it kind of looks like it's doing a kind of noise. So, R.I.P. your headphones. All right.
Yeah, we need to voice more chimerans at any point.
Yeah, apparently. I'd love to. Yeah, put me in, coach. All right, so I'm going to choose 3 winners for the T6 coupon. And again, message me either on Discord or on Twitch, and you will receive your reward. All right, so number 1, congratulations to Eric. Excellent, well done. Good job. And then number 2, good to see. This one is for Arrowing 42. Congratulations. And finally, IK Ronix. Congratulations to you as well. Someone said message who. The person who said message who didn't win, but message this account, Cryptic Studios on Twitch, or message me. I'm Ambassador Kale Returns on Discord. If you go into the Discord, you'll see my name right at the top. So congratulations to everybody. Muak says, I'm not any of these people. Please re-roll. It's too late. And thank you very much, Jamie, Keen, and Thomas, all for being here, and Thomas's cat especially.
Tony.
Tony!
It's Tony time.
Tony! And we will be back next week. Let me take a quick look at the schedule and see if I can talk about what we're back for next week. Should have had that pulled up, but it's too late now. Da-da-da. Bookmarks. Stream schedule. I hate Slack with a burning passion. Yes. Next week is gonna have to be rescheduled because we can't talk about that next week. So we may end up doing we're gonna do something about the Noble and the Grawl next week then, because which will either be a content creator stream, or if we can get some of the designers of those classes on board, we may interview them. But we have not, as Pundit said, we haven't had a lot of luck locating the original Noble designer. Could reach out to John Eves, though. Maybe we will. All right. Folks, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in to this stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being players of Star Trek Online. We will see you next week. And please hop into the Discord or say hi to us on social media. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, I should find someone to raid. Chat, you can still hear us all because I'm going to find someone to raid. everyone, somebody tell us a joke. Who's there? All right, I've got one. I've got one for you. Knock knock. Interrupting cow. Moo. Knock knock. There's not a delay. It works for me. And that's the only thing that matters. That's funny. Oh, wow. No, definitely not. Sorry, there was somebody I was going to raid. We are Charlie Kirk. So, let's raid both. She's live. All right, everybody. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, time zone, wherever you're at. Say hi to Wolf and be nice in chat. And we will see you next week. For reals now. Bye-bye, everyone.